My husband subscribed to countless OnlyFans accounts. I thought he was just scrolling online, but then I checked his bank account and saw he was spending our savings on them. My husband and I have been married for 6 years. We've had our ups and downs, like any couple, but I always believed we had a strong foundation built on trust, love, and mutual respect. Or at least, that's what I thought. Recently, something shifted. At first, it was subtle. Little things. The kind of things you don't immediately question because they seem so insignificant on their own. But when you string them all together, they form a picture you can't ignore. It started with his phone. He'd always been casual about it before, leaving it lying around, unlocked, answering texts in front of me without a second thought. But then, one day, I noticed something different. We were sitting on the couch watching TV when his phone lit up with a notification. Normally, he'd just ignore it or glance at it absent-mindedly. This time, he snatched it up so fast it startled me. I let it go. Maybe it was just work. Maybe he was stressed. But then it kept happening. Over and over. His phone was always in his hand, screen tilted away from me. If I walked into the room while he was on it, he'd lock it instantly, slipping it into his pocket like he was hiding something. Late at night, when I was in bed, I could hear the faint glow of the screen buzzing against the silence of the room. He wasn't texting friends. He wasn't answering work emails. He was scrolling. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was looking for problems where there were none. But paranoia doesn't creep into your mind unless there's a reason for it, does it? Then, he started acting different. At first, it was small things, being distracted when I spoke, nodding absent-mindedly instead of actually listening. Then it became physical. He stopped kissing me as much. Stopped initiating anything romantic. His mind was somewhere else, and no matter how hard I tried to reach him, I felt like I was talking to a ghost of the man I married. I tried to shake it off. I made excuses for him, work stress, exhaustion, maybe even just a phase. But deep down, I knew better. Then, one night, I walked past the bathroom while he was showering. His phone was charging on the nightstand. Something in me, some gut feeling I couldn't suppress, told me to check it. My heart pounded as I reached for it, but before I could even touch the screen, it lit up with a notification. OnlyFans. I froze. The name alone sent a wave of heat rushing through my body, rage, betrayal, disbelief. I felt sick. I stood there for what felt like forever, staring at that notification. My husband, was subscribed to OnlyFans, paying to watch other women? I wanted to tell myself it was just a one-time thing. Maybe he clicked on something out of curiosity. But no, the way he had been acting, the secrecy, the distance, the phone constantly glued to his hand, it all made sense now. This wasn't new. This had been going on for a while. I didn't say anything that night. I didn't touch his phone. I didn't storm into the bathroom and confront him. Because I needed to know the full truth. So, I waited. And the next day, while he was at work, I sat down at my computer and logged into our bank account. That's when my world shattered. I sat at my desk, my hands trembling as I pulled up our bank account. A part of me still hoped I was wrong, that maybe the notification I saw was just some random ad or a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew better. The signs had been there all along, I just hadn't wanted to see them. As the page loaded, my breath hitched in my throat. There it was. Transaction after transaction. Payments to OnlyFans. Recurring charges. Custom tips. Subscriptions. And not just a few dollars here and there, hundreds of dollars, thousands, spread out over months. My stomach twisted as I scrolled through the list, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. This wasn't just a casual mistake. This wasn't a single moment of weakness. My husband had been deliberately, secretly spending our money to pay other women. Every swipe of my finger down the screen made my rage burn hotter. I clicked on the details of some of the transactions, my eyes darting over the names. There were dozens of them, different women, different accounts. Some payments were labeled as exclusive content, others as private messages. He wasn't just subscribing to their pages, he was paying them directly. I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails dug into my palms. I wanted to scream. to throw my laptop across the room, to march into his office and demand an explanation. But I forced myself to stay calm. I needed to know everything before I confronted him. So, I dug deeper. I started checking the timestamps on the transactions. Some of them were made late at night, the same nights I had gone to bed alone while he stayed up on his phone. Others were made during the day when he was supposedly working. I even found payments from nights when we had gone out together. While I was sleeping next to him, he had been paying other women for their attention. I felt sick. This wasn't just about the money. This was about betrayal. About lies. About the fact that my husband, the man I had built a life with, was secretly funding other women while barely touching me anymore. I couldn't stop myself. I clicked on one of the OnlyFans links from the transaction history. The page was locked behind a login, but the profile picture was enough. A woman, barely clothed, posing seductively. My blood boiled. Was this what he wanted? Was this what he chose over me? I clicked back and searched another. And another. All of them were the same, beautiful, young, confident. Women he had chosen to give our money to instead of spending it on our future, our home, our marriage. I had seen enough. I slammed my laptop shut and sat there, my chest rising and falling in sharp, ragged breaths. My hands were shaking so badly I had to press them against my legs to keep them still. This wasn't just a bad habit. It wasn't just some harmless indulgence. He was invested in these women. Emotionally. Financially. Secretly. And I was supposed to just be okay with that? I stared at the wall, my mind spinning. Did he even feel guilty? I thought back to all the nights he had been distant. The way he avoided eye contact when I tried to connect with him. The way he barely touched me anymore. Had he been thinking about them while lying next to me? Had he been comparing me to them? My throat tightened. I thought about our plans. The vacations we had talked about taking. The home renovations we had put on hold because we were saving money. I thought about all the times I had stressed over bills, over budgeting, all while he was throwing away our money on strangers. And suddenly, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was furious. I grabbed my phone, my fingers moving before I even realized what I was doing. I pulled up our text thread and hovered over his name, my pulse hammering. I wanted to confront him now. I wanted to make him face what he had done. But something held me back. No, not yet. I needed to see his reaction. I needed to hear his excuses. So I waited. I spent the next few hours in a haze of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. Every time I tried to distract myself, my mind pulled me right back. What else had he lied about? If he could hide this, what else was he capable of hiding? I replayed every conversation in my mind, every moment that suddenly made sense. The way he had started changing his passwords. The way he had gotten irritated when I asked harmless questions about our finances. The way he had started joking about how I should be less uptight about spending money, as if he wasn't secretly throwing it away behind my back. And what hurt the most was that he hadn't told me. Not once. Not even a single ounce of guilt had been strong enough to make him confess. I checked the time. He'd be home soon. I forced myself to breathe, to keep my hands from shaking, to prepare myself for whatever excuse he was about to give. Because tonight, he wasn't walking through that door and pretending like everything was normal. Tonight, he was going to face me. And I was going to watch him squirm. He walked through the front door like it was any other night, setting his keys on the table, stretching his arms, sighing as if he were tired from a long day at work. I sat on the couch, my laptop still open in front of me. My heart was pounding, but I kept my face neutral. I didn't want him to see the storm raging inside me. Not yet. Hey, he said casually, barely looking at me as he kicked off his shoes. What's for dinner? I stared at him. He had no idea. No idea that while he was out, I had uncovered everything. No idea that I had spent the entire day drowning in a mix of rage and heartbreak. No idea that every second that passed without him confessing made me want to tear him apart even more. Come here, I said, my voice controlled but firm. He looked up, slightly confused. What's up? Sit. His brows knitted together, but he listened, dropping onto the couch next to me. I turned the laptop toward him. The bank transactions were still on the screen. For a second, he didn't react. His eyes flicked over the charges, the names of the accounts he had been paying, the money he had drained from our savings. I watched his throat move as he swallowed hard. Then, slowly, he turned to me. I can explain. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Can you? My voice dripped with venom. Because I'd love to hear the excuse for why my husband has been secretly spending thousands of dollars on other women. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. He looked cornered, like a deer caught in headlights. I waited. I wanted to hear what he had to say. Hi, it's not what you think, he started, his voice shaky. It's just something I got caught up in. It's not like you what? I cut him off. Not like you cheated? Because tell me, what exactly is the difference between sneaking around behind my back to pay women online and sneaking around to sleep with someone in person? He flinched. It's not the same. I scoffed. Not the same? I grabbed the laptop, scrolling down furiously. Explain this then. All these tips, all these custom payments, what the hell were you paying for? Private messages? Videos? Did you request something special? My voice was rising now, anger bubbling over. Were you messaging them? Were you talking to them while I was asleep right next to you? He ran a hand down his face. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I laughed, shaking my head. Oh, so draining our savings wasn't going too far? What would have been too far then? Flying out to meet one of them? Of course not, he snapped, then immediately seemed to regret his tone. His voice softened. Look, I don't know why I did it, okay? It started small. I was just curious at first. Curious? I repeated, my jaw clenched. Curious about what, exactly? He hesitated, then shrugged. I don't know. It was exciting. It felt, I don't know, different. It wasn't about you, I swear. It was just something else. I stared at him, my stomach twisting. Something else, I echoed, the words bitter on my tongue. So what, our marriage wasn't enough for you? His face twisted with guilt. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? My voice was trembling now, not with sadness, but with pure fury. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you chose random women on the internet over me. You chose to give your attention, your money, your time to them while I sat here like a fool thinking my husband was just busy with work. He exhaled shakily, rubbing his hands together. I messed up. That's all you have to say? I snapped. You messed up. He met my gaze then, and for a brief moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes, fear. He knew this wasn't something he could just apologize for and move past. He knew I wasn't just angry. I was devastated. I love you, he said suddenly, his voice desperate. I swear I do. I never meant to hurt you. I laughed again, this time hysterical. You never meant to hurt me? Do you hear yourself right now? I shook my head, feeling my hands tremble. Do you think that makes it better? Do you think that makes this okay? He didn't answer. Because we both knew nothing could make this okay. I stood up, pacing the room, my thoughts racing. I gave you everything, I said, more to myself than to him. I trusted you. I never even imagined you would do something like this. He hung his head. I know. Silence stretched between us. Thick, suffocating silence. I turned back to him, my voice quieter now, but no less sharp. If I hadn't checked the bank account, would you have ever told me? He hesitated. And that was my answer. I felt something inside me break. It wasn't just the betrayal of what he had done. It was the realization that he never planned on telling me. That he had been perfectly content lying to my face every single day. I inhaled sharply, blinking back the sting in my eyes. I can't do this, I murmured. His head shot up. Wait, I don't know if I can ever forgive this, I said, my voice steadier now. You weren't just hiding some stupid little secret. You were sneaking behind my back, spending our money, paying other women for their attention. You betrayed me. He looked panicked now. Please, we can work through this, I shook my head. I don't know if I want to. Silence again. He stared at me, and I saw the reality hit him. He never thought I would leave. He thought he could get away with it, that I would yell, cry, maybe give him the silent treatment for a few days, but that I would stay. But I didn't know if I could. Because I deserved better. And for the first time since discovering the truth, I felt like I had the power. I turned away, walking toward the bedroom. I need space, I said firmly. I need time to think. He didn't argue. He didn't fight. Because he knew. He had already lost me,